Okay, back to the brushed bicycle motor project. You might have thought I'd forgotten it, but I haven't. I've just had a lot on my plate. So first to the electrics. I've been slowly working on tidying up the wiring for this, of course, because we don't want it getting in the mechanics here. I've joined the brake cables, which run from each of the brake levers. Join those brake cables together into one wire, which goes all the way over here, and then that one wire goes to the motor controller here. And basically, if you're holding one of the brake levers, you're operating a switch and it shuts off the motor controller's power and stops the motor. That's very useful when you're standing on a railway platform or somewhere where you really do not want this bicycle to unexpectedly move on you. Yeah, we'll come back to that one. I have been direct soldering the wires to the motor controller because the quick release connectors that it comes with really aren't very secure, and they're wobbly as anything and they can come out. I don't like that. This has to work all the time reliably. So I shall be replacing all of these with direct wire connections in due course. If the thing breaks and I have to resolder another one in, well, so be it. We'll just aim not to burn it out, eh? Okay. Down to the next part of the project, which is the act of holding this motor in the right place. It has to be, it's rather hard to show you, but it has to be right about up here, so the drive cog is in direct line with the cog on the back wheel, and it needs not to move. So I'm going to be creating a sort of bracket which will go here and brace against the frame, and can allow, with some grub screws, allow you to adjust the position in and out like this, and also back and forth like this. I'm going to be adding some buffers down here, filling the hole there and filling the hole there between the hangy bracket and the bicycle frame. I did consider using some rubber blocks, but that would allow too much movement. So I'm going to use GRP to fill that gap. Yes, I know I could have used other things, maybe a block of wood, but GRP is my favourite material here. And that's where we are so far. Okay, so on with the project. Now, a couple of days have passed since my last recording, and I'm quite wobbly today, so I thought, whilst I wait for a steadier day for my hands, I'm going to put my camera on the fixed mounting. Hopefully that gives you a clearer image than the last recording. Now, this motor controller has a couple of features that I like. There are outputs for, well, there's outputs for a couple of things which I'm not using at the moment, but I will do. One is labelled, what does this label? Brake light. Now this one, I'm going to be using that to power a brake light that'll go about here. I've got to create the mount for it. I kind of like that feature. That's a bit like a motorbike, so you know, it'll go hand in hand with my other lights to light up whenever I'm braking. Kind of useful. It'll also show when the switch is working, even if the brakes aren't. What else have we got? We've got there's a charging point, I think. This one says indicator. Now I'm not sure whether that's just a light or what that indicates exactly. I'm going to have to get a bulb for that. I'm guessing that's just an on light. I might use that just as a running light power. Something to point down at the tyres maybe. See what we do with that one. That could be my main running light. What else have we got? And the third one is charge. Yeah, so you could technically take a charge in from a power source. And now, whether this is doing anything with this power, whether there's any electronics in between this and the battery, I can't tell, and I'm not going to trust it. I do have 3 chargers to charge the batteries, so I probably won't use that one. But it is good to have the lamp power. Once all this is done, I'm going to take a piece of metal, shape it, and create a curve, and I'm going to polish it up nicely, and of course create that thing to hold the brake light. It's all going to be sealed against the elements anyway, and that's going to be an interesting potting project, but yeah, so far so good with that. Okay, let's move the camera. On now to the knotty subject of vibration isolation and keeping the mounting plate just where it needs to be in relation to the bicycle frame. Now, as I say, I wanted to put some sort of chunk of rubber really between the hanging straps, the metal hanging straps, and the frame. And so yesterday I spent quite a bit of time looking for a suitable chunk of rubber. Now you can buy online at some expense a solid lump of rubber in any sort of thickness you want, but it's very, very expensive. The price of rubber's gone up quite a lot since this cost of living crisis started to bite. So I was looking for other cheaper options. Now, one of the cheaper options that I thought of was maybe using a good chunky dildo, frankly, which I'd cut up to extract a suitable chunk of rubber. And I've done this before on a couple of different projects. One notably being chunks of rubber for a mini rear subframe when I had one of the original Austin Minis. Don't do this, by the way. That could be potentially dangerous, and that's maybe a subject for another story. Pop a comment, in the comments if you want to hear that story. I might come back to that one. But that turned out to be quite prohibitive as well, purely because the cost of those materials have clearly gone up, and the price of a dildo in a local shop turned out to be way outside my means for this budget. And it's also worth noting that we've seen a shift away from the good traditional rubber, which was a set thing or semi-set thing, towards the gel fab materials. And the gel materials are made of a plastic that isn't properly set. It's constantly leaking toxins. So you don't want it anywhere near you, anywhere near your paintwork, or anywhere near anything else for that matter. Think about the sort of things that we've seen coated in those rubber materials in recent years. So iron frying your clothes, kettle handles, vape sleeves, things on chairs. Wherever the plastic starts to degrade, it turns sticky and nasty. Now, you don't want that on any part of a vehicle, because if it starts to degrade, the vibration damping falls away and it starts to become a sticky mess, and then it's prone to problems. The other sort of material is, of course, the silicone, which has its own issues and also degrades quite rapidly. And again, it's not such a good vibration damper. It's a softer material, and we don't want it to be soft. We want it to be a good, firm, yielding, but not too yielding material in the mix. And now I could have also gone down to Halford's, or any other car parts place and tried to find some rubber there, but past experience has shown me that can be disappointing, not to mention costly, so I just didn't bother. What I settled on eventually was a hardware store. I think it's Homebase or whatever amounts to the Homebase shop in Wolverhampton, and I bought some of these. They go on the floor and they stop they stop doors banging into the wall. A door stop. Yeah, I think that's what they call them. It's made of a nice firm rubber, and I got a pack of these, a pack of 3 for £4.50, which I thought was, well, not the cheapest thing, but then it's a good little kit. It came with screws as well. So 2 of these in the frame will really do the job quite nicely. I just wish I'd thought of this before I did all the walking to the other shops. But I learned a thing or two. Right, so let's turn the camera around, shall we? Okay, so you can see my intent now. I've pushed the bungs into place between the strap hangers and the frame. Now, they are just held in place with friction at the moment, so I'm going to hold those in place with a cable tie passed through to hold it to this. And I might also use some of this rubber tape around the parts to stop them slipping. We'll see how we go with that. This is tape that you use to seal the edge of a bath. I think it'd be pretty poor for that particular task, but for these sort of things it's really good. I use some here on the inside of these plates to help the two plates grip the frame far better than they would with just glossy paint. It seems to work quite well. Okay, there we go. That ought to hold it. And as you can see, it's resilient. It does allow a certain amount of movement, but we're going to be curtailing that when we put the grub screw thingy in here. But there's quite a bit of damping. And if we go to the back, we can see that it's pretty much brought the motor in line with the back cogs, so that's kind of good, and helps push things out. That's nice, I like it. Okay, so work has been progressing through the afternoon. I've created a rigid pillar, this thing here, which is designed to, it screws down at the base on the motor platform there, and then it engages with this shaft here in order to determine the angle relative to the frame. And when it does that, it changes the angle of the motor at the gears. Now that's the plan. It holds everything secure in conjunction with the strap hangers with the rubber buffers. Let me just turn it around, shall I? Now hopefully I'll be able to record this because my neighbours have the telly on rather loud. Let's hope it doesn't cause any copyright strikes, shall we? Now, no one's going to tell you that this is a particularly attractive piece of engineering, because it's not. Most of my engineering work is functional, but yeah, and it's never going to win any prizes for looks. So, as you can see, it's a piece of square tubing that I've chopped in half and riveted, bolted together with a section of, with a length of alloy plate, which I've wrapped around the outside to sort of block out the weather and tidy it up a little bit. It does offer me the option of running the cable down inside of this to the motor, but I think because that might cause the cable to become snagged and short out, I probably won't do that. It's firm enough though for me to maybe cable tie the cable on the outside. That's probably the better way to go. So at the bottom we have 3 screws. There's 1, 2 and 3 screw holes. That's where this thing is screwed down to the wooden base plate. And then we've got 1, 2 bolts, which I'm going to install in such a way that it allows me to adjust the length of the screw thread here as it pokes out on this side by turning the bolt here. Adjust the length, and that way, because it interfaces with the struts of the motor controller holder thingamy, it's going to adjust the way this rests against the plate. Now I've got to make a kind of a clip which is going to wrap around this and the strut to make sure that it pushes away but doesn't actually jog out of position. I might make 2 of those, and they're going to bolt through. You'll see how it comes together. It's going to be tidy enough, I guess. And yeah, I've got to also add a little bit of GRP on the inside of that box back section strut, just to make a place for these to properly nest into. Again, I don't want it jogging up and down too much either, so they're going to be firmly fixed in place one way or the other. Now you might notice that these need to be fixed down. If if this was made of steel, which it is not, it's made of alloy, I would be welding that nut there to this steel plate, and then it would just turn against that and the bolt would go in and out. Can't do that, so I can use a piece of glue, a little blob of glue, or more likely I'm going to be taking a strip of metal and simply riveting it close up, like on this side, which will stop the nut turning and also hold it in place. And then with a little bit of glue, that'll stop it popping in and out. But it will stop the nut turning and allow the adjustment to proceed. And I'll do it at both ends. And well, let's just see how that goes. As you can see there, I made a right pig's ear of that one, didn't I? Oh dear. Well, that's the state of play at the moment anyway. I shall cut back in when I've done a little more. Okay, so several rather hard working hours later, I've got 2 clamps. Yeah, I know they look very simple, but it took a while to get to that point with the R&D. 2 clamps which clamp through the frame, and these are a counterpoint to the toe-in, toe-out bolts. I've got these screws through this strut into the base, and there's one on the back as well, of course, as you've seen earlier. Had to take it all apart to reassemble it, of course, correctly, and I think it's just about ready for a test run. So I think it's time to do a little test run to see if the chain dislodges. I'm going to plug in the battery, leave the battery sitting on the side. That way, if things do go wrong, the bicycle and the motor and everything else aren't going to go careering across the room out of control. Not that it's got far to go, but still, safety measures and so on. Needless to say, don't try this at home, kids. And we always connect the positive first, and on this particular battery pack, this is the positive for me. This one is negative. Hopefully it doesn't do that sparky thing. I don't like it. I really don't. Nope, yep, there we go, a bit of a spark. Nothing major though. Okay. Engaging the power. And lift her up. Wish us luck. And off we go. And the chain came off. Ooh, this rather destructive. Okay, well, time to realign things, I think. Okay. Take 2. I've removed everything, readjusted the position of the strut here, so it puts the chain under far more tension, and now it's nice and tight. Nice and tight there, which is good. And let's give it another shot, shall we? I've already connected the battery, so you don't have to endure that again. Oh, moo moo. Yes, anyway. Yeah, go. You want me right? Right, so off we go again. Dude! work with children and animals, they say. Never a truer word said. But yes. Now it's at this point I realise that the spokes need tensioning. However, I'd say that's a success, wouldn't you? Okay.